You are toxic. You poison all your relationships, she said to me with a self-satisfied sneer. Everything you touch turns to ashes. I had been mad before that, but this hurt. It cut through all my zen, all my positivity, all the little tricks that I used to keep myself a really good person. I could feel my face tighten up as I tried to hold back the tears, and then something broke. Something inside me changed, and I wasn't trying to hold them back anymore. And before I knew it, my hands were on her throat, pushing back against the wall. I'll never forget how the anger felt visceral, like a chemical pumping through my forearms and my veins, pulsing, 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 as my hands were on her neck. And I didn't squeeze, just pressed slightly, as if to let her know that I meant it when I said, I will not allow you to keep saying these evil things. And then in a voice that I don't even recognize as my own, I heard the words, "Don't dare presume to speak about my private relationships," and then the bouncers dragged me off. And my feet went above my head, my body was suspended, and then bang on the ground. And I was left to pick myself up and dust Adams Mill Road off me and wonder what on earth had happened back there. I lost myself in that bar. I'm not this way. I don't hurt women. I don't hurt anyone. What had happened? I drove home with my girlfriend later that day, and I remember feeling more alone than I've ever felt in my entire life. The anger and the guilt and intense depression, each cutting the legs out from the other. I wasn't always like this. I used to be an artist. I used to have a community. I used to be a carpenter in the theater. I was happy. I made things. I grew up doing musicals in the Des Moines Community Playhouse, and I did theater all through my life. Theaters they're magical places. She knows. Places where diverse groups of people come together, groups of people with hugely diverse skill sets, and they make things, they work together to build things far bigger than themselves, things that no one group of them ever could have gotten done. Frequently, these people don't know each other very well. Frequently, they don't like each other at all. Frequently, one of them getting their work done means that the other one can't, and yet still, they make these things, and it's beautiful. I loved that. I loved making things, and I loved connecting with audiences in moments of piercing honesty. But 2.5 years into a really destructive relationship, of being gaslit every day and every night, of gaslighting myself, all of that had been stripped away. My ability to communicate clearly with people and be understood deeply, the ability to smile at somebody, to get someone else to smile back, the ability to believe that I could get what I wanted, the ability to believe that what I wanted was even okay, all of that had disappeared. And I was lost. I broke up with that girl not long afterwards. And I entered a really dark period of my life. For about 2.5 years, I was searching for something. I'd lost myself, and then I'd lost my art. I gave up my job in the theater to work at a think tank because, I don't know, to prove that I could be a better provider for a woman that I didn't even want to provide for. I searched and I searched. And on the outside I was fine. I ran through a lot of friends, I went out a lot, I was making the best of it, but on the inside I was a shell of a man, not even a man, a really scared boy in a really big and scary world. And I searched for years because the last place I ever expected to find what I needed to grow up was at a festival in a field in Delaware. That's where I went to my first regional burn. It's called PDF. And my friend had been going to these things for a couple of years and was always really excited, but she was always really excited about everything, so I kind of just rolled down. And she'd been trying to get me to go to a thing, and I always had something else to do, and this, that. And finally I was out of excuses. I needed a weekend out of town. And we left on Friday after a really long week of work, and I was frustrated. You know, I wasn't even that excited about what we were going to go do. And we pull into the parking lot, and like before the wheels have stopped rolling, the door is open, and she is squealing and tearing ass to the other end of the parking lot. And she like jumps up on this guy who I've never seen before, and she like gives him a big hug and like wraps her legs around him and squealing the whole time. And I was at a point in my life where all I did was kind of roll my eyes. And I was upset because I had to like unpack the car alone or something. So I'm sitting there unpacking the car, and she brings this guy up and he introduces himself to me, and I go to shake his hand, and he pulls me in big, and he gives me a hug, and he says, "Welcome home." And that's different. I mean, it's obviously silly, but there are so many worse things you can be greeted by in this world by a stranger than warm silliness. And the home feeling just kept going. At my first burn, the weather was perfect, 75 and sunny in the day. Just a little bit of humidity in the air, the kind of weather where if you take drugs, it feels like the universe is kissing you. It could just cold enough at night that you could like dance your face off but not get really gross and sweaty. Good weather's a start. The people were warm and honest with each other and helped each other without being asked. The women were fascinating, interesting, and interested and beautiful. I got picked up by a girl with pink ribbons and yarn and lights in her hair who like rapped her life philosophy to me a cappella. And this gave me a lot of confidence for some reason, because I've been trying to connect with women here in DC for a long time and feeling really awkward about it. So much confidence that when people told me that this event was about volunteering, I decided to go, and I found a guy who was building this awesome structure. It turned out to be the temple, and it was this 5-room, 2-story monstrosity. And I went up and I asked him if I could help, and he introduced myself and said what I could do, and he looked at me like he'd been alone on a desert island for 7 years. A man just completely underwater on his own project with nobody there to help him. So I started following him around like a puppy dog. And then as soon as I heard him get frustrated with the project, I said, "Hey, can I finish that up for you?" Take the hammer out of his hand and tack, 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 tack in the rope lights. And why don't you get a drink of water and go figure out what's next when I'm done with this? Oh, you need me to attach those stairs with the drill gun. Okay, I got it. Why don't you? And all of a sudden we were done. And I'd never seen a person more grateful to me. And it felt great looking at this thing and knowing that I'd helped. And I'm sitting there with the hammer and the drill gun and the cigarette, and I feel like a badass, right? I feel like a carpenter again. This is fantastic. I can do things in this world. And for the rest of the festival, I went around, and every time I got to the building, I poked my head in, and I saw these beautiful people inside, having beautiful moments, moments of joy, moments of grief, moments of healing. And because I'm arrogant, I had the audacity to feel somehow responsible for this. And then when Sunday rolled around and it was time to burn it, because that's what we do. We make temples, we make temporary sacred spaces and share them, and then release them through ritual fire. When it came time to burn the structure down, the artist invited me up onto his, the top of his U-Haul truck with him and his friends to drink and watch the fire. And sitting there and watching the flames climb into the night sky, I remember feeling like such a part of something bigger than myself, looking around and seeing all 2,000 faces of the festival around the one fire, seeing all their faces bathed in its light. I felt so surrounded by love and so much a part of making it happen, knowing that I had done my part. I knew something in that moment that it took me another 2 or 3 years to admit, and I'm here today to talk about, which is that this burning thing, Burning Man, it's not something that I go do on the weekends. It's not something that I go do. It's who I am. I'm a burner. And what that means to me is that I've dedicated my life to creating beautiful things, beautiful moments, sharing them with people, and then letting them go. When you do that, when you commit your life to making beautiful things and sharing them, and then burning them the fuck down, I'll be damned if everything you touch doesn't turn to ashes. Thank you.